Hello once again. It's me. I'm back, and I thought I'd come on here. It's Friday night, and come and talk to you guys a little bit again. We'll see how it goes, and we'll try to make this a regular thing every Friday if we can. So, what I thought I'd do is in a little bit, I'm going to talk about the origins of my urban fantasy series and Amanda, who's standing right here. So just it's not something I've spoken about publicly very much. I mean, I have written about it a little bit in the back matter of my books, but I thought I'd come and chat on here and talk about it and discuss it a little bit, which would be fun to do. But I want to start by firstly thanking everyone that's watched the first book listened to, I suppose, the first book in my Magi Saga series that is up on YouTube. I really appreciate it. It's done way better than I thought it would do. So if you have listened to it, thank you. Really appreciate it. It's great to see that people are listening, watching, and enjoying it. My urban fantasy series. Let's talk a little bit about how it started and where it comes from, because you probably know it, from the audiobooks that I've put out and spoken about on here, and you might know it as this book. This is its current latest cover, but you might not know where it originally comes from. So Amanda, the main character in the series, she goes back about 30 years at this point. This goes back to kind of my teenage years, and at the time I was I wanted to be a comic book artist at that point in my life, and I wanted to thank you, Justin. I wanted to be a comic book artist at that point in my life, so I was drawing lots of comic books, coming up with kind of superhero characters, that kind of thing, and that's how Amanda started off life, actually. She was originally going to be a comic book character that had kind of psychic powers and was able to turn into this alternate powerful being, I suppose. And I drew various sketches of her. She had a superhero name, which was Valkyrie, and she started off life in that way for a little bit before she eventually made the transition from just kind of sketches in my sketchbooks into the games that I was playing. So I used to do a lot of tabletop gaming, Dungeons and Dragons, you're probably familiar with, but there's loads and loads of tabletop games, and I used to play some games that would fall into the category, the genre of urban fantasy, Vampire, Mage, and all those games by White Wolf. I used to play those a lot. And Amanda became a character. So I used to run the games for some friends, and Amanda became a character in those games. She was one of my NPCs, so to speak. And so she made that transition into the game, and over the years that I was running those games, she appeared in a couple of different guises, I suppose, until she kind of settled into something which is closer to the Amanda that you might know from the books. And I go through this eventually when I do release this. This is the proof of my Magi Saga art book. So I do have all this in here, including the original sketches of Amanda. Maybe I can just show those quickly. So that's her in a superhero outfit, the way she started off life. So I do talk about this a little bit in that book when I finally finish it and release it. And so yeah, she went through a couple of different guises. She started off as a kind of mentor type person, and a bit of a secret agent, until she eventually became something a bit closer to the Magus from the books, and that's how she stayed for a long time. She was a character in those games, kind of my proxy in those games. She would kind of help the characters. She was kind of always there in the background, and I really enjoyed running those games and building the world around the characters and around Amanda. I have a lot of happy memories running those games with my mates. It was a lot of fun. But as I got older, I kind of moved away from home and for a job, and eventually met my now wife. And the games kind of came to an end. But even after those games finished, Amanda was still up here. I was always... So, I mean, I'm an artist, so I did lots of drawing of her, and I was constantly coming up with ideas for her, for stories and things like that. And she just wouldn't leave me alone, basically. She was just there in my head. She just, was constantly something I would think about and kind of, is there anything I can do with these ideas? And eventually, I just knew I had to do something, and so I decided to write a book, which was a lot of work because Amanda at the time was very much embedded within the gaming world that I was using, which was, the gaming world was obviously belonged to a company, and it's not something I could use. But the character was mine, and so I kind of pulled her out of that, and decided to basically rebuild her and the world from scratch. So, I figured out how her magic should work and what the world would be. So, and I took I got inspiration and elements from lots of different places. Because the games, when you're running RPG games, I mean, yes, you have a setting that you kind of set things in, but you then tend to take that and craft it and twist it and change it and put your own spin on things. So I had my own ideas about, what various aspects of the world should be, and so I basically kind of stripped everything back to its bare bones of the characters that I wanted to keep that were mine. So Amanda and Gentlewater and Liz and Maya and Yasmin, Angel, all those characters and loads more. And I thought, I took the essence of who they were, stripped everything away that wasn't mine, and did a lot of research on, on kind of history, on magic systems, on just urban fantasy in general. I'd read a lot of Jim Butcher's Dresden Files, which are up there on my shelf, just there, and other books as well, and kind of thought about what I wanted to do and how I would create a world for her to live in, and just kind of built it. And it took a long time. It was kind of years of work went into this, building the world and around her, which eventually culminated in the first version of her story, which was this book. And back then it was called, as you can see, it was called Epic Calling. It's quite thick. There's a picture on the back there, and so that was the first book I put out. The formatting was a bit all over the place, but that was years of work went into that, putting that together. That eventually saw print in 2013, and I didn't do an awful lot with it at that point, so I published it in 2013. That's how it looked for about 3 years, until I kind of forgot about it for 3 years. I went back to what I was doing because I kind of scratched that itch. I'd written her story, I got it out of my system, and it felt great. I was very proud of it, but I knew it needed work. But I kind of went back to what I was doing, and it wasn't until about 3 years later in 2016 that I started doing covers for other authors and realizing that there were people actually making a living publishing independently through Amazon's KDP system, and I decided, well, I still have so many ideas for Amanda's story. Back then, although I'd written one and I kind of stopped and left it, I had ideas for, I think it was about 9 books originally, which eventually got whittled down to 7 in the course of things. But yeah, it was originally going to be 9 books, and So in 2016 I thought, well, I could actually make a living out of this, and so I dove back in. I went back into Epic Calling and I completely rewrote it. I kind of stripped it right back and rewrote it, and produced this version of the book, which you can see is a lot thinner. Because there was a lot of stuff that didn't need to be in there. Plus, the formatting wasn't great, as you can see, and so it got formatted, reformatted, rewritten, and you can see it's much denser on the page. New cover, and so I rewrote it, republished it in 2016. And then went on to book 2 and started going through the books, book 2, book 3, book 4. They're up there on my shelf. I'll just grab them. It's over here. And so you see the original names now. So as I said, the original names for these, the first one, which is now Magi Dawn, was originally Epic Calling. So that was a 3rd cover. The model there is Amy, who modelled for me as Amanda. And the 2nd book was originally called Shadows of Darkness, which you can see there. And book 3 was originally Black Dawn. And finally, book 4 was originally going to be, or originally was, Infinity's Edge. And so I published those four books before I went on to something else and wrote actually my Cyberpunk series, and then my Wasteland Road Knight series, before I eventually cycled back and wrote the rest of the books. And I also renamed them, and so they got rebranded and renamed to Magi Dawn, Magi Rising, Magi Omen, Magi Edge, and so on, through to Magi Rebirth. So that's basically it. That's what happened and where it came from. I can see you're here, Justin. So if you do have any questions, feel free to ask. Happy to answer them. But yeah, so that was that. Really, that's how it started. That's how Amanda came to be. Yeah, she's kind of still, she's on my mind a lot still as a character. Stories for her, and the world, and there's still several things I could do. I've got an idea for something else I could do in the future, and it may be something that I talk about at some point, where I see things going, and what I could do with the characters. I've got some ideas, so we'll see. Yeah. So anyway, as is obviously fairly clear, over the past few weeks, I'm putting the audio books on YouTube at the moment. Book 1 appeared a couple of weeks ago, and then this week I released yeah, a bit like the special features of a movie show. Yes, it is. So this week I released a shorter audiobook, which is called Hitting the Road, which is a kind of bonus epilogue, and it was only, up until recently, it was only available as through a link in the back of the book. So there, it was only available there through a link in the back of the book, and you could download it to your Kindle and read it. But I decided that it would be fun to, keep things in order. I'm trying to release all the audiobooks in the right order, or as close to the right order as I can. And after Magi Dawn, the next one was Hitting the Road, so that's why I released that. Sorry, yeah, I'm just reading the comments. I hope you do a series that will be a true progression for your light rankings you had. Yeah, so are you talking about the progression of the magic that the Magi use in my series, and how they progress? Very much like how Amanda does in the books, and because yes, it is all that is all background information, and I actually provide some of that in this. So one of the things that you'll get when I eventually make this available, at the back, is there's 3 appendices in the art book. There is a timeline, which is appendices 1, which goes through what happens and kind of when in history up to the modern day. Appendix 2 is about the magic, and that gives you a bit of a rundown of how it all works, how things are ranked and powers and what they can do at the different ranks, that kind of thing. And then Appendix 3 is is all about the etheric realm, the spirit realm of the series, and talks about that and the various realms that are within it. So that will provide a lot of information in a kind of written form, background information about the series and how certain things work, which I touch on in the books but probably don't go into in great depth because it's a lot of detail. I'm not sure how to put that in a book without info dumping an awful lot of it, but you get the basic gist. So yeah, it's interesting that you say, when you say that do a series with true progression, because it depends on what I want to do with the series. So with the Amanda books, I was very keen to show her progression, where she started off and how she moves through the ranks. And also Amanda in the books, she's not like most other Magi. She's special. She's a little bit different. And so she moves through the ranks a lot quicker than a normal Magus would. So one of the things about the magic that the Magi use and learn is that it's not something that they can learn in weeks or even months. It takes years, and as they get to the mid ranks and then the higher ranks, it goes from years into decades, and then the top ranks, the master and archmaster and all that, it goes beyond that, because the Magi, when they get powerful enough, they tend to live for a very long time, and it can take hundreds of years for them to get to those ranks. So it is one of those things. It can be difficult to show progression in a series because it would cover such a long period of time. Now, with the Amanda story, without giving too much away, I mean, there is a certain amount of kind of shrinking that time with her because she's a little bit different. She's a little bit special. So I was able to show that progression a bit more. The other series that I showed that with is the Etheric Academy series, which showed Katie from that series, showed her learning magic at the very early beginning parts of magic, which they can, a Magus in my world, they get through relatively in a shorter period of time. So yeah, but things have changed. I mean, what through the stories that I've done, Amanda and other characters have affected the world they're in, and so things are a little different now. So yeah, maybe. It also just depends what you want to do with a series. So with something like my Magi Argent series, they are very street level, gritty books, and it's more about that than it is about magical progression, and it's more about exploring the world from a very grounded perspective. And yeah, so it just depends what I'm trying to do with the series, really. But I have different ideas. So the ones I've got in my head are another Amanda series, probably a trilogy to tie up some loose ends. Then it would be a series. Another idea would be, I've got a few different ideas. A fourth book in the Magi Argent series. That's another one I could potentially do. I've got ideas for that, which would progress the main story and also explore the world a little bit more. A sixth book, and possibly sixth and final book in my Cyberpunk series, which is obviously that's completely separate to all the Magi stuff. I'm keen to do that at some point. And then the other idea that I've got in my head, which I'm really keen to do at some point, is an Arcanum series, and I'm really keen to have a go at that. And I've got a good idea for what I would want to do with that. So for those unfamiliar, the Arcanum is a organisation within my world which is basically run by normal humans, which are often referred to as Riven in my books. But these are Riven that know about magic, and if you know about magic, you're often referred to as initiated in my universe. So the Arcanum is a organisation run by initiated Riven who are aware of the supernatural and how dangerous they are, and want to protect humanity from that and keep the supernatural secret. So the Arcanum is a very powerful global organisation that has its fingers in basically everything. So it's got its fingers in governments and media and justice, and it's got its fingers everywhere, and it uses that to keep an eye on magical comings and goings and what's going on in the world, and then trying to hide it from the general populace and keep people safe and separated from it all. So it's got parallels to things like the X-Files and Fringe, the computer game Control, if you've ever played that, SCP Foundation, and these kind of things. So it's got a lot of parallels to some of those things, and I've always, in recent years, I've liked the idea of a book or series of books which focuses on some agents as they deal with the supernatural. So just normal humans, although I might twist one or two of them, kind of dealing with the supernatural and how they're in it. So I think that would be fun, kind of gritty, probably kind of a dark, thrillery kind of story. And yeah, I'd probably have I'd have lots of cameos from characters in the books, in the main books. You know, I've got to have Amanda turn up at some point, surely, and some of the other characters as well. That'd be a lot of fun to do. So yeah, I've got various ideas, and that's just some of the ideas that I've got. But I mean, I've got more than that. I've got lots more ideas than I've got time. I mean, I did think about doing the Arcanum series as a ongoing YouTube serialized series. I spoke about that in my first live stream, and I've written the first one of those. So I will put that out at some point as well, obviously. I don't know. It's still, everything's still very much up in the air. I want to see how YouTube goes. I'm getting the other books in the Magi Saga series out on YouTube. I want to see how that goes. I'm currently writing a book at the moment under my... So I write under two different pen names. I have my Andrew Dobell pen name, my actual name, and then my British crime fiction name, and I'm writing a book under that name at the moment. But once I've finished that book in a month or two, I'll know a bit more about how things are going on YouTube and what I want to do next, and I'll decide then what it's going to be. I'm really not sure at the moment. I may talk to people, talk to you guys, and find out what you would like to see. Maybe give you a few options, or maybe I'll just go with my heart and whatever's just really inspiring me at that point, and choose that. I'm not sure which at the moment, but whichever, doesn't matter. I'll pick something at some point and then get that written. But yeah, anyway, so what I thought I would do, unless anyone's got any questions, what I thought I would do is do a quick reading from the second Magi Saga book, because that will be the next book that I put on YouTube, Magi Rising. So maybe I could do a quick reading from that to give you an idea of what is coming down the road next week. So this is from early in book 2. It's from a chapter called Chase. Here we go. Let's burn some rubber, whooped Zane. Oh my word! I've just had a lot of. I'll come back to the reading. Sorry, just a lot of messages pop up. Have I read any cultivation series? No. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if I was to do a book which took place over a long period of time, hundreds of years or more, that's possible. I'd have to figure out how I was going to do that. But yeah, I mean, that's not something that's impossible. What about those pre-sundering? So yeah, what about those pre-sundering? Didn't they rank up faster and more powerfully than the more modern Magi? Yes, they did. That is true, and actually that's one idea of all my countless ideas, is to do a book or series of books, maybe a trilogy, something like that, that's set back in prehistory, and to show the war against the Archons, which are the big kind of baddie gods in my series. So the initial war against the Archons when they ruled over humanity, and how the Magi fought back against them, and which led up to the Sundering, which is an event that happened that weakened the Magi around the globe. So that's an idea. It's something I thought about doing. Yeah, we'll see. Yes, my pen name, my British Crown pen name is A.L. Frayne. Yes, that is the pen name. So yeah, let's just see if there's any other. The Archon Wars sounds epic. Thank you. Yeah, that could be a lot of fun to do. It's certainly something that is. It's on my mind as something maybe I would do at some point. I think it would be quite interesting to do. I don't know. We'll see. If I had to pick an idea right now, I'd probably go with the Arcanum one, just simply because that's been on my mind as something I really want to do. However, anything with Amanda in it is also on my mind, and I'm very keen to kind of finish her story, although I kind of feel like her story's finished. So I'm very much in two minds about that, because So obviously there's the Magi Saga series, and then this that's followed up by the Star Magi series, 5 books, and then her story. I wrote Wedding Vows, which is the kind of a sweet little short story that kind of wraps Amanda's story up a little bit. So I kind of feel like I've given her a happy ending. And then it feels like if I then dive back into things and get her on another adventure, it feels like I'm kind of negating that happy ending. But at the same time, I have loose ends that I probably would like to, well, I feel like I'd like to tie up. Which, if you've read the Academy series, you'll know about one of those loose ends. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It's something I need to kind of settle in on an idea at some point, but we'll see. Right. So to finish off, then let's do a quick reading from book 2, Magi Rising. So this is from a chapter early in the book called Chase. Let's burn some rubber, whooped Zane. Amanda twisted the handle of her modified Fireblade motorbike, gunning the engine. She smiled at Zane's enthusiasm as the rear wheel on her bike spun, kicking up dust and smoke as it screamed for the open road. We're on the express elevator to hell, going down, Amanda replied, quoting one of her favourite films, and Zane's energy got her heart pumping. She let off the brake and the tyre gripped the concrete, shooting her forwards towards the far wall of the underground garage only a few metres away. Pyrotechnics fizzled in her etheric sight, lighting up the room as Amanda barreled through the portal, followed closely by Zane. After a second of dislocation and dizziness, Amanda shot out of the portal, her bike bouncing and fishtailing as it hit the road on the other side. Holding on tight, Amanda corrected the bike before giving it some power. They were heading towards a bridge on a slip road that passed over an elevated auto route just ahead. Taking a moment to absorb her surroundings, Amanda found herself under the open sky of western France near the Swiss border, in an area surrounded by rocky hills and cliffs. The auto route snaked through the landscape, alongside cliffs, through tunnels, and along elevated sections held high in the air by concrete pillars. The auto route below wasn't too busy, but there were still enough people on the road that it could be a problem if things got really messy. The nomads should be approaching your position now, Eckhart Moller informed them through the mental link that connected her and Zane to the others involved in the operation. Amanda looked to her left at the oncoming traffic and spotted the nomad coven right away. They were close and would pass under the road Amanda and Zane were on in the next few seconds. I see them, Amanda answered as they rode up onto the bridge. The nomad convoy consisted of several motorbikes that encircled a white van and a grey 4x4. Amanda counted 5 bikes of varying shapes and sizes. The whole group seemed to have little concern for the rules of the road, and as she watched, the bikes bullied a car out of the way, narrowly avoiding a crash before racing under the bridge. Moving to engage, Amanda stated, looking over at Zane. Although his face was hidden under the matte black motorbike helmet, she could see he was looking at her with her etheric sight. She nodded. He nodded back, and they both headed for the side of the bridge. A swift working of magic, and the barrier on the right-hand side of the road became liquid. It splashed to the tarmac, where it fused solid, creating a gap big enough for the bike to fit through. Taking the lead, Amanda launched her bike through the opening, dropping from one elevated highway to the one below. Amanda's bike bounced as it settled onto the road. Zane landed right behind her. "Whoop!" Zane yelled as he gunned his engine. "Come on, Red, let's go to work." Moments later they were gaining on the back markers of the nomad coven. "We're dealing with the civilian traffic. We'll try to make the road as clear as possible for you," Moller informed them. Amanda glanced behind her and saw the civilian cars had started to back off as the Legacy Magi back in Paris began working their magic. As she passed under the electronic sign, she noticed it had changed to a warning about a crash up ahead. Amanda smiled to herself and returned her focus to the nomads in front. "Incoming," called Mola over the link. That's when Balor struck. Magically hidden from view, Amanda watched as an amorphous shape swooped down from above and slammed into the side of the rearmost biker. Balor, bike and rider all disappeared over the side of the highway with a bang. "That'll sting in the morning," Zane commented as he pulled his sword from its scabbard on his back. As they approached the two rearmost bikers, Amanda checked her aegis and the other magical effects she held ready for the fight. Amanda flipped up her visor as she came alongside her chosen target and smiled sweetly at him. "Hi," she greeted him. Confused, the biker glanced back to where his teammate had been moments before. Amanda swerved towards him and landed a fearsome punch across his face. Her Essentia-laced fist manifested as a web of golden fire that, for a second, passed through the head of the man. His bike wobbled as he tried to hold on, the front wheel weaving dangerously. Closing the gap again, Amanda kicked out, her foot striking the front fork of the bike. Her enhanced kick was strong enough to buckle metal, and the bike went down, the front wheel bent sideways. She watched as Zane's target tumbled from his bike seconds after hers. Their attack had alerted the convoy to their presence. A man in the leading 4x4 barked orders from his window to the remaining two bikers, who slowed and dropped back towards Amanda and Zane. There you go. The opening chapter, or part of it. There's much more of it after that. And it's part of a long book. It's about 9 hours worth of content, which is going to be appearing on YouTube next week. So look out for that and give it a listen. A couple more comments. What about a daughter or son for Amanda and Matt? That's her husband, so that she can have that legendary bloodline. Yeah, maybe. Don't want to give too much away, but yeah, that's certainly a possibility. Some sort of bloodline, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, is again something I thought about. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, it's something I've thought about. Who knows? We'll see if I get round to writing those last 3 Amanda books. What will happen to her? Who knows? Anyway, yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. I've been on for 40 minutes now, and so I do like coming on, talking to you guys, to you, Justin, and anyone else watching. It's always fun answering questions, so I'll keep doing it because it's good fun. Right, yeah, I think we'll end it there. So hopefully we'll be back next Friday. There's probably going to be a Friday or two that I miss over the Christmas period, but after that I'll be back in the new year, and hopefully we'll be able to keep doing these and keep talking. That'll be a lot of fun. Thank you for watching.